Hello and welcome to another episode of Zero BS Estate Agency. In this episode, you're going to meet Iain Cooper, a prominent figure in the estate agency industry and the driving force behind Keller Williams UK. With a passion for excellence and a mission to transform the perception of estate agents, Iain is dedicated to building successful businesses that prioritise the needs of clients. He understands the intricacies of the property market, and not only at a local level, but a national and international level. And his leadership is characterised by a commitment to professionalism, a deep knowledge of the industry, and a genuine desire to offer the best service in the real estate business. Iain, welcome to the show. Okay, so podcast will begin in 15 seconds. So Iain, what is the one thing that truly maximises the value of someone's home when they go to sell their property?
It's a great question, John. The one thing I would say that would maximize anyone's property is the quality of the agent. The main thing for me is everything else can be learned, everything else can be taught. But if the agent doesn't understand how the market works and the general ideas of what the market does when the the tides rise, the tides fall, if the agent doesn't understand how the market actually works, they can't pinpoint exactly where they need to price it to get the maximum exposure of that property.
And when you say works, are you referring to like economics nationally, internationally? What do you mean by that?
Yes, but ideally their local market. So with the market works in supply and demand, isn't it? So if the supply is there and demand's not, we know what's going to happen. So it's always looking at where's the happy medium. So if they understand supply and demand and they're hyper local to that area, they understand where they can pinpoint their property. If there's 100 4-bedroom houses on the market, you're not going to go for the top end of the price. If there's 2, you'll go in maybe to the top end of that price. But there's 100, you need to be competitive within that market. Yes, you may get the top end, but it's how you market it from there. So understanding how your local market works when it comes to supply and demand or anything new that's happening in the area, that's the key point that I would say.
Right. That's really interesting. And but again, you know what? I also agree with that as well. I think understanding definitely your local market, absolutely. But what else is happening nationally? What else is happening internationally? You know, what's happening in the news that is going to directly affect? And I think and I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I say every property is different, so must be treated appropriately as well. So when we're talking hyper knowledge, you could have 2 houses sitting right next to each other or 2 flats in the same building. And I've seen it where people go, well, if that flat's worth that, mine must be worth the same. No,
again, interesting point as well, because again, it's not just about the property, it's about the person that's inside it. So it's understand the motivation of that vendor or the landlord, whatever it is. It's understanding their motivation, their situation, and what they need to do moving forward. That will give you the better understanding of how you can actually market the property as well. Because again, we all know we've got 30 days to get the maximum amount of price, maximum amount of money and exposure for a property when it goes live. You don't want to lose that. So understanding what the wants, needs, and desires and motivation of the vendor or the landlord, that's even more important than the actual property.
So what if though the motives are that I need 1.1 million or I'm not selling? But one of your agents at Keller Williams knows that 1.1 is not achievable. And in fact, they've got no comparable evidence beyond 900 grand.
Okay, well, if you look at, we actually did this on a training session yesterday. So if you look at somebody who's saying they want 1.1, we know it's not achievable. It's going back to them and say, look, I'm curious, what makes 1.1 important to you? So it may be, if you look at a market at the moment with prices coming down slightly where we are, it's if you've got you're selling a £500,000 house, you're taking 10% off, it's 50 grand. You've got £1 million house, you're buying 10% off, it's 100 grand. You're 50 grand better off. So it's not just always about the price, it's how you educate those vendors to understand that it's the pound notes at the end of it and where you're actually moving to. So if you dive deeper into something that I love doing, because you look at a lot of these agents that are going out, they just take a right move best price guide, and these are my list of applicants. Nonsense, really. It's if you sit in their living room with them and do the best price guide, go through home search, go through Sprift, whatever data platform you're using, and do it with them. Because if you can educate somebody to understand how you got to that rather than telling them, that's the key piece that anyone can actually do. Because you look at the journey I've been on over the past 16 years in agency, it's always just been about a number: get a listing, get a listing, get a listing, get a listing. And now coming over here and looking after 20, 30 agents growing their own businesses, it's about how do we get a listing and get that person moved, because that's why they're coming to talk to us. You become a consultant rather than a valuer.
Yeah. But I suppose it's hard and horrible though, right? For agents to, yes, educate, but equally, one, turn down the business, but also compete with the prices that a seller is seen online, the marketing price versus what the real money is.
Definitely. And I think if you can take out back end comparables of what land registry actually states that properties are going for in the area, again, it's 3 months to 4 months out of date, but the market doesn't shift that quick. So it's almost, look, this is what's actually happening, but let's dive deeper into that property. That's why I love like the Sprift, because you can go into the comparable square footage, everything on the back end, but it's, look, you need to go a little bit deeper. If you look at why kids say why all the time, they don't do it to annoy us.
Yeah.
They do it to find the truth. They do it to understand what it actually means. So it's almost, you go, this is what it is, but this is what it really is, and this is what it means even more than that. So again, it's trying to open up people's minds, because you look at the two lowest things that vendors will choose their agent on is price and fee.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the two things that agents think that everyone's going to choose us on. Yeah. But that's all they know, because that's what they think it is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's why most properties are left languishing. The average, I think, across the UK is 168 days a property's left on the market. And I'm like, how is that? How is that possible? How is that? Because if you've been in as an agent in your area for 3 months, that's what I say. New to the area, been in for 3 months, you absolutely know what the pounds per square footage is. You should absolutely know what the pounds per square footage is for the good, the bad, the ugly on a road, right? The good, the bad, the ugly in the postcode. You should absolutely understand the appetite. So how could you get the price so wrong? How could you go to your seller for a price reduction? How could you go for a property that's gone beyond? Yes, of course, properties will go beyond 30 days. They will, right? My average was 29.5 days. I still had properties on the market that had been on the market for 60 days before they went under offer. So yes, but how though? Most of my properties were all below 30 days. So how do we get it so wrong as agents if we've been in the area for a long time?
We don't get it wrong as agents. We get it wrong as businesses. So the reason that one of the main reasons I'm with Keller as well, because it's about getting people moved and the care in what we can actually do in agency. So if you look at the people's care and love for agency, it is diminished every single year, and it's getting worse because people are just there for a job most of the time. If you then look at the model that people work with within an industry, it is about how many listings can we get on the market, how many boards can we get out there, how many of this. So if you incentivize me just to get a listing, what am I going to do? I'm just going to get a listing, right? And that will start coming to a close. When it starts getting tougher and tougher and the squeeze becomes tighter and tighter, it will be incentivized on sales. But we've almost broken ourselves by incentivizing people just to list. So if you look at, right, okay, just price it here, don't talk to them for 30 days, then reduce it. Why? I'm not being paid to do that. I'm not, sorry, my blood's boiling. I'm not being paid to do it. And I'm not helping someone. And you almost ruin your own reputation with anybody out in your local area. But because you've got so many boards up, naturally people think they're good. Mm-hmm. But you flip it on its head. How many sold boards are there, Mr. and Mrs. Vendor? How many sold boards have they got rather than for sale?
Yeah. Yeah, because I think you're right. you could have an agent with 5 properties on the market that have been on the market for less than a month, all under offer, all either at the asking price or above, where it's been professionally managed. And that comes from that agent absolutely understanding every single nook and cranny within that location.
Yeah, if you look at someone that says I need to move within the next 4 months, great. Where am I? You're going to price it competitively better than anybody else. The marketing may not be as flamboyant as you may need it, because you just price it low, people come through the door.
Yeah.
And you have competition. So it's something called the 3 Cs: the competition, choice, and control. Create the competition. You've got a choice of offers, but the vendor and the agent are in control. If you price it too high, you've got no choice, you've got no competition, and the buyer's in control.
Yeah. And yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that. So 1 second, Ian, 1 moment. I am writing that down as we speak. So the 3 Cs. The first one is, what was the first one? Competition. So competition. Next one was choice and control. And this is exactly that there. Those 3 Cs that you've just mentioned, that's put goosebumps on me, because that is exactly the agent that you want in your life if you're selling a house. Absolutely. Because creating the competition, well, what's his chops? Tom Panos. Property is not in isolation, it's in competition. So what are you going to do to get all the very best buyers around to your house? Yeah, absolutely. Which then gives them choice of buyer. And that buyer may not be the one that's offering the most, by the way, but definitely in the best position to purchase. And what happens if that person actually that gets the property that we all thought was like the slam dunk, that's the one that's going to take it, ends up having to pull out because things have changed, but now you can replace it instantly with the other buyers that have been professionally managed. And then absolutely control is the biggest thing that sellers must have. Not now hoping and praying that the buyer is going to book in a survey, or somehow that their solicitor is going to do what we need them to do on a Women of Press. And now we don't update the seller because we've got nothing to say. And now we're like, oh my God, let's just hope this happens. And 6 weeks later, the survey still hasn't gone in because the buyer still hasn't got a hard credit check done on them, or there needs to be some serious underwriting being happen.
And that's one of the hardest things with vendors and vendor care is overcoming their hope of how much they can get, hope of how quick it's going to be, hope of, and again, at the end of the day, like with Keller, again, I love the business because it is about education. It's about how you can change yourself. Before I came to this business and started sort of exploring more and more of how agency actually works, because when you're in like a corporate or you're somewhere else, you're almost in a little bubble, aren't you? This is how we do it. This is how it works. It's nonsense. It's that you need to become an educator and consultant rather than somebody who thinks they sell houses.
That's a major difference.
Yeah, and it's education and everything, because people don't understand it. We think they do because we know it, but they don't.
Yeah, no, absolutely, mate, absolutely. I think with regards to a seller, right? So we agree, competition, choice, and control. Absolutely agree on that, right? But how does a seller, though, know that they are, what does an agent have to do, in your opinion, to make sure that, yes, they're educating their actual client, but for their client to truly know that they have the right level of competition being created, that they do have the right level of choice off the back of competition, and then they are in control? How would they truly know that?
It comes down to data. That's the simplest way of looking at it. Because if you've got 100 properties on the market and they're all at 400 or 425,000, and you've got a similar property that's going to go right in the middle of it at 400 or 425, you are fighting 100 other people.
Yeah.
If you do it at 375, offers over 350, or whatever you want to do, guided, it's then you've created that competition straight away because you stand it out. So everybody that's looking at those other 100 is going to look at yours first. purely because, oh, that looks a bit cheaper and it looks just as nice. Great. Everyone through the door, create the competition because everyone could see each other, everyone's smiling, oh great, yeah, I love this house. That's when that turning point. And I think it's that educational piece of, look, people call open houses open days, whatever it is. If you've got an open house, have music on, have bake bread in the oven, have, I don't know, snacks and drinks, and look, just let people come in and out, because it's, look, this is one of somebody's biggest purchases they're ever going to do. So make it into a bit of fun. Don't just like open doors and kick it about. And like, it's about then, if you can educate the vendor who you are and what you do before you even go there. You don't talk about yourself. You don't talk about marketing. You don't talk about anything else. You talk about them. What do they need? What do they want? What do they desire? How long do they need to be? How do you think we could do this together? Because it's a partnership. You're employing me, but this is a partnership. I'm interviewing the vendor as well, just as much.
Yeah, yeah. That is, do you know what? And that's a really good metric. An agent actually interviewing the seller just as much as the seller thinks they're interviewing the agent, because also for me, I think the agent who is prepared to walk away from a commission check is the agent that the sellers should be listening to. Why is that man or woman said, thank you so much, but I don't think I can help you right now?
It's the beauty of, again, working for a different model, within a different model, because it's like, if they've got enough confidence to walk away from 5, 10, 15 grand, 20 grand, whatever it is, they know something they don't. The seller doesn't. So it's almost, look, I'm not going to put my time, my effort into something that I don't think is going to go anywhere, because I've educated you. I've tried to get you to understand how it works, what it means, but you still haven't quite got it. You're not motivated enough to move. So I'm sorry, this isn't for me. And if you look at, if you're part of a business that's part of a network as well, look, you might not be the right agent from anyway. It's leasehold, it's got cladding, it's not my expertise, but here's somebody else, go and talk to them. That vendor will still want to work with you, not the other person.
Yeah. And why would you say that is?
Because you're looking after them. Their best needs are before yours. So it's not you're just taking it on to try and get some money. You're actually there because you care. You will help them because you care.
Yeah. So I'm good friends with one of your agents, a guy called Paul Charles. And Paul's in my fitness group, right? And when I first met him, he saw me through my TikTok channel, and then I met him through a friend of a friend on the side of a football pitch. And he was like, "Oh my God, you're John. And he said, I want to get in, I want to be in part of this industry. I want to be part of this industry. And I was like, why? Why do you want to get into a state agency? And he was like, because I'm sick to the back teeth of agents lying to win instructions. And it's happened to me a number of times. And I just want to be part of something much bigger than myself, but also doing a proper job, doing the job correctly as a job really should be done, not going through a painful process." Paul Charles works under the Keller Williams brand, right?
Yeah.
In Reading, Marlow, Henley, that sort of area. And I first met him on the side of a football pitch for a friend of a friend. And he was like, "Oh my God, I've seen you on TikTok. Jesus Christ. I want to be an agent." And I was like, wicked. Anyway, he specifically wanted to work with you guys purely on the basis that he wanted to get into the industry because he couldn't take agents lying to him about his own properties.
Yeah.
And thought, do you know what? I may be new to this, but actually, fucking hell, if that's my competition, if that's what I'm up against, and I've not been in the industry before, if that's what I'm up against, I am doing this because I need to protect sellers. And I was like, mate, that's exactly why you should be getting involved in agency. Absolutely.
Yeah. And if somebody hasn't got in their head that their job is to protect somebody's biggest asset, then they shouldn't be an agent.
Yeah, completely. No, I totally agree with that. And I met a guy once last year who said to me, and he's the COO of a corporate chain. And he said to me, "John, why do you care so much about what a seller achieves? It's not your job to care for them and what they achieve. Your job is to get listings and get people under contract." Their contract's 22 weeks long. And he said, and so basically you wait for, let's say you've got 40 properties on the market. You wait for 5 sellers to come to you, yeah, to say, oh my God, what do we need to do? We need to reduce the price. And then you reduce the price until actually you start getting people who are interested to go and buy it. The other 35, you leave them to do whatever they're doing until they come to you. And I was like, really? And I thought, how do I handle this conversation? So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to extract myself because
the headlock.
yeah,
that's one of the main reasons I love what I do, and that's my vision. My vision, my mission is to change the perception of agency and get rid of this crap. Because it's look, we in the last year's census, we were voted less trusted than politicians. How the hell is that possible? How? It's like, but we're doing it. People are doing it to ourselves. It's like, and if people don't get passionate about that, and I'll get really angry about it. If people don't get passionate about it, why are you here?
Yeah.
What are you doing? You're making it harder for us because we want to do something that's positive. We want to make it better. Yeah, it just drives me mad. It's just like, but that's somebody who's running a business.
I know, exactly. And that is the ethos. And by the way, that same agency, I later on found out through somebody else that doesn't work there anymore. They said that the listers, of course, it's all about KPIs, value as listers, getting the properties on. And then the negotiators inside the office are incentivized 3% commission on the overall commission on the last negotiator to get the price reduced to the price it then went under offer at. So you got valuers going out to and overvaluing in order to meet KPIs to get people signed up to 22-week contracts. And then you've got the negotiators who are the ones that are doing the viewings, etc., are incentivized to get the price of the property down so they get paid a commission.
That's mad. When somebody, I spoke to somebody a few weeks ago, and I remember this from the corporate days. It's the Friday phone out to get price reductions, and he's been like Amazon vouchers. It's crazy,
and it's so unnecessary.
Being broken. That's what I mean by being broken, because it's like if people are incentivized to do it, they're going to do it. If you're going to pay me a load of money to go and do that, I'm going to go and do it.
Yeah,
but it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah. Also, I don't think when people call for this industry needs to be regulated, I don't personally agree with that, in the sense that it could be regulated, but still you're going to have unscrupulous agents still bending the rules to suit themselves, despite them knowing the Property Misdescriptions Act 1977, or despite them knowing things. So I do agree, having knowledge and what things mean, absolutely. But ultimately, for me, it comes down to the drive, the professionalism, the get up and go, the wanting to understand at a deeper level what was really happening in an area, to really, like you said earlier, to be a consultant.
I agree and I disagree, because I think that if not regulated but licensed, so I think you have to have a base knowledge to do anything in agency. So somebody comes in, like I've got some of our best people in our office that weren't agents 3 years ago, but they've got more care and more desire to actually help their vendors from start to finish. So from valuing to getting it on the market, to doing the viewings, to negotiating, to getting them moved, to hoovering their house, to helping them removals. That's what one agent should do. You don't need this, like it's like you fall in love with a lister or a manager, and when you listen to your property, and then you never see him again. It's like, no, but I wanted you because I listed because it was you, not because there's somebody who doesn't understand what they're doing. They don't understand what they're talking about. They just open the door a Saturday viewer, even worse. Because it's like they actually don't know anything. They're just there to open doors. It's just it doesn't make sense. And I think if we look at, we need to make us as an industry look more professional, like almost like a doctor's, a surveyor. It's like this is our job, and we're qualified to do it. And that's what I mean, qualification over regulation. Because if you have to pass an exam to be able to be an agent, so you're not, the knowledge. It's like being a taxi driver. You can't just, black cab driver, you can't just jump in an Uber and put the sat nav on. If it breaks, if you're a black cab driver, you need to know where you're going. Yeah,
actually, that's a great analogy. That is a great analogy.
Why there's always going to be people in the market that are dodgy. There's always, in every market there is, right? It's just how do we make it better for everybody?
Yeah, and do you know what? I would say, if you're going to ask me that question, what makes it better for everyone? I'm going to say, first things first, agents should not have the race to the bottom in terms of the fee that they charge. So if you're charging 1.5% or if you're charging 2%, find out why you are charging that. What is the reason you're charging that? What are the stats showing? So for example, if I'm achieving 99.47% of my valuation accuracy rates and my properties are only on the market for an average 29.5 days, and by the way, the last 43 properties I've sold 100% of them, yeah, for that valuation accuracy rate, and my competitors are down at say 94, 95%, then you paying me 2% is actually a lot less expensive than paying them 1%.
I bought my first house for a very well-known brand. It was purple. The agent wasn't involved. Being an agent myself, I knew what questions to ask, and understood that he was desperate to sell. So offered him a substantial amount less, but to move quick. Got it. So they would have paid them, I don't know, 1,600 quid, whatever it is, but lost 40 grand.
Wow.
So again, when you talk about negotiation, it's about, look, you can give your property to X, Y, and Z, right? But I guarantee I'll get you between 2 and 10% more than anybody else.
Yeah.
Because if I'm getting £1 more, great, you're winning. If I get £2 more, you're winning. £3, 10 grand, 20 grand, is whatever it is within the middle. That's what the negotiation tactics should be, because you care what they get, not just, oh, we got 300 grand. No, straight away, no way. Dig deep. How pounds and pence in your pocket? How much can you afford to buy this house for? So you're pushing them back automatically, just because you care about what the vendor gets. Not you want to get it done quick, so you get your 20 quid commission, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's the other reason. Look, if somebody's incentivized and they're going to get a lot more of the commission that someone's charging, they're going to do more. They're going to do more for that vendor and their customer and landlord, whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. So what you're effectively saying is, yes, you've got the way in which a property is presented in terms of professional photography, good videos, whatever, floor plans, property descriptions, that all has to be tight. And exceed expectations. Then of course you've got your marketing, so that may be through your property portals, including your own socials. Then you've got the actual agent knowing how to negotiate, because they're highly trained. But what sits above that, I think, from what you're saying, is if you still don't know the local appetite for what is actually truly happening in your area, you're not going to maximize the value of someone's home.
100%. Again, look, marketing's easy enough to do, right? You can find a photographer, find a videographer, find someone does 360, find someone like Peak Homes that we're doing some business with as well at the moment. There's so many different ways you can do it, but that's the easiest stuff to work out. But if you don't understand how it actually works and how you can create, or you don't understand the scripts and psychology of how people actually, how they buy or how they sell and their emotions around it, they're the key fundamental points. It's like the foundation of a house, right? If you don't understand that bit, it's going to topple over. All you are is almost just like I'm not going to say second-hand car salesman, because they need the same thing, right? They need to understand what cars and everything. You're just a wheeler dealer, opportunist. It's like we want to be professionals, and we want to be seen as professionals, not as crooks. Because that's what hurts me the most. You go to parties and someone goes, "What do you do for a living?" I'm a real estate broker. What does that mean? It's like, rather than an estate agent, it walks straight away. It's like being a parking attendant. Yeah,
absolutely. I completely agree with you. Right. Iain Cooper, Keller Williams, mate, you've been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. It has been brilliant.